Can I get a humana real quick? Humana.
I had a buddy, Bob.
What idiot gave us microphones? That's what I want to know. Who was the idiot that said, let's give Glenn Lundy and Michael Cirillo access to a microphone? Like, golly, man.
Jeff Bezos.
Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate you. The rest of the world might not.
He made these darn things so accessible to us all.
That's right.
Oh, man. Well, can't say I've ever had an episode start that way, but I'm so glad that it did.
Podcast intro ever right there.
Oh, man. Sitting down now with my good friend. Good friend. I mean, I've done so many podcast interviews. I've made so many friends, but to say this is my good friend is rare. But I am sitting down with my good friend, Glenn Lundy, founder of the 800% Elite Automotive Club, founder of Breakfast with Champions on Clubhouse, and they're doing so many amazing things over there. Thanks, man, so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook podcast.
Bro, I appreciate, there's trillion places Michael Cirillo could be right now, and you chose to be here with me, and that means something to me. So I really, really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you. Still need your dad's taco recipe. A little bit disappointed I haven't received that yet.
We had that last night, and I don't know, dude. For some reason, like the 4,878th taco that I've had of his is even better than the first one. Like they just keep getting better and better and better. Like I'm like, bro, how do you? It's the same stuff, but it's amazing, man. So I'll make sure he hits you the recipe, and then I'll check in with you like 15 years from now and see how good they are.
Yes. Well, I don't know if I'm as talented as him, so they might just taste the same as the first time. But I'm telling you, man, I ate those things. I was like, dang. And usually I'm hesitant to eat at people's homes. Like,
sure.
You just don't know, you know?
Yeah, everybody says the mama's cooking's good cooking, right?
Yeah, but no, like this was legit. I was like, how many can I steal of these before they realize I'm just an obese, disgusting individual?
Bro, I take down like 7 or 8 of them every time, man. And they're each packed with like at least a quarter pound of beef in each one, man. So 2 pounds of taco. I'm just like, yeah.
So good. Such a good recipe. Speaking of recipes, you are quite the chef yourself in that you have developed a recipe, I think is the perfect word that I want to use right now to piggyback off of tacos. You have lived and curated and developed a recipe for car dealers. And that's why I wanted to get you on the show and talk about your 800% Elite Automotive Club, because I'm going on my 23rd year in the automotive industry. I've never seen anything quite like what you have put together. And there's so many things that I want to unpack, but I kind of want to just turn it over to you. For those that may not know your story and how you kind of got to this point, I want to turn it over to you. How did this all come together?
Yeah. So, I've had, I guess this would be my 3rd season in automotive is what I would call it. And, season number 1 in automotive, I worked at a dealership for 8 years. I went from salesperson to general sales manager, and the store experienced exactly 0% growth over a period of 8 years, like exactly 0. I'm like selling the same amount of cars 8 years later that we were before. And that was my first season in automotive. And that season also had a lot of, I was in my 20s, I was young, I was dumb. And so there was a lot of turbulence would be, how sometimes in the movies or the books or whatever, they're like this chapter, or like in Will Smith, what's that movie with him and his son? What's that movie?
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
It's like this chapter of my life is called running. Right? Like it's the one with the stockbroker thing, whatever that thing was called.
Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah, that one. But so that season for me was called, I'll call that season Turbulent. That'd be the title of that chapter in my book. And then I came back. I tried to get out of automotive, man, because it just had a bad taste in my mouth. And so tried to get out, couldn't get out, got back in to the automotive space for season 2. And season 2 for me in automotive, I would title that chapter growth, right? Because I grew as an individual. And also I went from salesperson to general manager of a initially small dealership in a small town, Paris, Kentucky, population 9,600 people. And we were able to grow that dealership 800% in just under 6 years. We went from selling 120 cars a month. We settled in right around 850, with our best month being 1,043 units, right? Wow. So at the end of that season, I left the retail side and started the season that we're in now. And I guess if I had to give this chapter a title, it would be Create is probably what I would call it. And so what we've done with 800% Club is I looked at everything I learned in that growth season. And then I looked at everything that I experienced in that turbulent season. And I started to ask a question. And the real question was, what is missing in the automotive space that we could create so that more dealers could experience the growth chapter and not the turbulent chapter? And what I found was missing is we have lots of sales training. We have lots of finance training. We have lots of management training. We have lots of different vendors that serve different purposes for marketing and for websites and for all these different things. But the one thing that I felt we were missing, and that really I was missing when I was a GM at that dealership, the one thing that I felt we were missing is nobody's training the owners. Nobody's holding the owners accountable. No one, especially no one that's ever actually been in a store that's actually grown a dealership,
right,
is working with owners and GMs. And so I decided with 800% Club that I was going to work with owners and general managers of car dealerships all over North America to help them scale their volume, their profitability, their employee retention, and the overall culture in their dealership. And once we kind of landed on that's the plan, now it was a matter of like, well, how do we create that, right? Because this is a blue ocean. There's no roadmap for us to follow. And so I started looking at other people that were serving dealers in different ways. And I was looking at their model and I was like, does that model really serve? Right. So I spent the first year, Michael, on the old model, what I call the old model, which is you pay me a bunch of money. I fly out to your store. You put me in a hotel room. Then I go to your store for the day and I peek around and I poke around at all your stuff. And then you feel obligated to take me to dinner that night. So then we go to dinner that night and I give you a list of 10, 12, 15, 18, 37, 483 different items that you could apply in your dealership to make it better. And then you put me in the hotel again for night 2. And then I fly home on day 3 and I check in with you a week later and you say, golly, Glenn, that was amazing, man. We've been doing this and it's so awesome. And I'm like, cool. And then I check in 2 weeks after that and you're like, wow, man, this stuff's so good, right? Yeah, it's awesome. And then I check in 2 weeks after that and you're like, we're not really doing that anymore. We tried it, but we're gonna get back to it. That worked well. We're gonna go back, right? And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm spending 3 days away from my family. I'm putting you in a very awkward and uncomfortable position where you feel like you have to spend all this time with me when really you just want to get the information to apply. And ultimately, it's not working in the long run anyway, because people do not just all of a sudden create these habits overnight. Like, it's not like you just flip a light switch and all of a sudden, now we have great culture. Now we have great retention. Now we're making great growth. Now we're scaling volume. It doesn't work like that. And so I did that, man, for like a year. And I was like, this is stupid. Dealers need the info. Dealers need accountability. Dealers need the strategies. And dealers need a network They need a network, a community that they can be a part of and they need a partner so that we can grow together over time, solve new problems as they develop. We can break things and figure out how to fix them. We can talk about things not just business related, but how do I become a better leader in this position? How do I develop a better relationship with my spouse as we're scaling and growing, 100% year over year? How do I get to where I'm not the person doing everything and I can really develop a team and I can get off the desk and not have to desk deals and work from 8 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night? Like, we can talk through those things and put all of that together. And that is what we've now created with the 800% Club. It's a community of owners and general managers of car dealerships all over North America, franchise dealers, independent dealers, small dealers, large dealers, dealer groups, single points, all coming together virtually every single week to share best practices, areas of growth, development, and opportunity. We also have a fully produced training that comes out every week that's between 30 minutes and 60 minutes long, that's market relevant, that taps into exactly what the strategies we need to put in place, that we hold people accountable to. We have events where we get together to really network and get to know each other on a personal scale. So it's not just virtual, because that's one element of the relationship. So we have the in-persons, but they're very condensed. They're very, we value people's time, right? And instead of me having to go stay in a hotel and go to your store and go to dinner and take 3 days away from the family, we get together an hour a week and we get together 12 days a year. And between those 12 days a year and that hour a week, you get everything that you need in order to be able to scale your volume, your profitability, your employee retention, the overall culture in your dealership. And I become a partner, my team becomes a partner, and we figure out how to make it happen. So that's the season we're in now, is this season of Create. And I mean, it's been incredible. The dealers we've attracted to the program are amazing. The partners that we have, like yourself, that we've been able to help serve our dealers better, is amazing. And it just keeps getting better every day, man. It's pretty spectacular.
I just want you to keep talking, because if I could convey how many attempts I've seen fail over the years, you so accurately hit on it early on, and as you were sharing the story, which is like, there's kind of that prescribed, like, I'm the doctor coming into the room and being like, do this, and this, and happy day. When I've attended your events, when I listen to the training, as I work with some of the client partners inside of this group, they're getting down and dirty and gritty tactical advice, like right down to like, you don't have enough silver and black cars, you're never gonna like. And I've never before seen the advice get that granular. It's always, man, it's always high level. It's like, you should say, you should wear a white shirt more. It's like, oh, what? Or it's like, you need to be a good person.
Right.
You're like, oh, crap. Like, well, I don't know what that means, and you're like, okay, all of that. Yeah. But like, let's talk about this. You want to be a good person? Here's the type of event you're going to put on for your community. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You're going to do that. And then the dealers that I'm seeing in my observation going and doing the things that you're laying out are having successful community outreach programs, are driving tremendous amounts of business. I mean, just most recently, what really blew me away, as you and I have our conversations in the evening and do dumb, crazy voices and, crack jokes and all these sorts of things. When it comes to the business, it's like, hey, this dealer, like, and this is what I want to just emphasize here is, then we'll get to talking business and I'll ask you, how's so-and-so doing? Or you'll say, how's so-and-so doing? And we talk about them legit from a, like, how can we pour our heart and soul into this dealership who has a very unique problem or whatever. And then a week later, we'll have a conversation and follow up. And you'll say they applied the advice and now they're 6 green days out of 7.
That's right.
And that is common. Like, that's what I want to emphasize here. That is what I'm seeing almost as an outsider brought into the fold, is that this is common. It is not it's not like network marketing where they're like, hey, you signed up for the thing, read the fine print. This results not typical, less than 800% Elite Automotive Club, from what I've observed and participated in, results are typical.
That is correct, man. And I know it's my baby, right? And everybody says that their baby's beautiful. But put the opinions aside, which in my opinion, it's incredible. But put the opinions aside, we have 4% attrition. So our retention is 96%. And we don't do any contracts at all. It's month to month. If you don't feel it's valuable, don't write me a check, right? And with that said, we do not lose dealers. Once they're in the program, bro, we don't lose them. And it's because we've really been able to tap into all those areas. It's not me. It's not about me. It's about,
right,
I bring what I bring to the table. And then Patrick Abad from the number one Toyota dealer in Georgia brings what he brings to the table. And then Brian Benstock from the number one Honda dealer in the world brings what he brings to the table. And then John Paul Guidry, who's selling 60, 70, 80 cars at an independent lot in Louisiana out there shooting gators on the weekends. He brings what he brings to the table, right? And so we've really created a space where it's not a silo, man. Too much of this industry is siloed. You look at NADA 20 group, and I think NADA 20 groups have value. I think they're very valuable. In an NADA 20 group, you're going to get 20 dealers that are all of roughly the same shape and size, that are selling the same product. And you're going to sit down and go through the same financial statements every 3 months and have a steak dinner and maybe get a best practice or two. There is value in that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's not valuable, but it's siloed, bro. It's siloed. You're sitting in front of the same 19 people going over the same piece of paper with the same manufacturer with the same size store. How do you really get outside the box thinking, when everybody's marching down the same path? And what we've been able to create by blending franchise, independent, large, small, big, people with different backgrounds, experiences, ethnicities, belief systems, all of those things, is we've really been able to get a well-rounded perspective of what's happening in the industry, and we're able to stay 6 months ahead. And I think that's why our dealers, they feel like they can be authentic because everyone in the room is in the same position. You know what I mean? Like they're all running a store. They're all leading people. They all want to grow. They're all very much like-hearted individuals. And so we don't lose dealers because we're now serving all those different aspects that haven't been served in this industry for a very long time. We're giving them a well-rounded view. We're allowing them to connect with other dealers outside what they're used to, and really folding them in to a program, a club, right? A club that serves them, serves their team, and serves them well. And I think they love that.
Yeah, I always have a quick and fond affinity for anything that gets past the problem and just talking about the problem. And I think that's the biggest thing out there that we see in the industry is there are a lot of people chirping about the problem.
Sure.
There are very few actually getting down to the solutions. And that's what I see. You had mentioned earlier about your training platform. So, for those that are wondering, like, what is this? Is it just a weekly call? No, you had mentioned that there's a training platform and you're professionally producing training content. What are some of the things, if you were to give us a brief glimpse inside of that educational resource, what are some of the things that they're going to be learning about once they log in?
Here's what I'll tell you, you won't learn much about. And to be honest, because I'm not an expert on the fixed op side. So we don't do a whole lot on the fixed op side. We do bring in outside experts that can talk over on that area, but that's not that's one thing you're not going to get. Outside of that, if it's over on the variable side, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about it in detail. Like you said, we're going to talk about exactly. There's trainings on what specific inventory. Like I did a training, I guess this was probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we had done some research. Me and my team were always researching what's going on in the industry. So we did some research. We found the 25 top selling used vehicles in America over the last 12-month period. So we went through. I'm like, you need this car. Like you got to have a Toyota RAV4 that's in the $15,000 to $35,000 price range. That's silver in color. Like we break down the inventory. We break down the direction your vehicles should be pointing on the website to convert better. We break down what type of buttons you should have and not have on your website to convert better. We talk about daily morning meetings, how those meetings should be structured, not just, you should meet with your team every day. But no, look, you're going to meet with your team. You're going to be the first one in the room 15 minutes before everyone else. Then you're going to follow the lead process, listen, encourage, advise, and develop. You're going to learn what's going on with your people. You're going to put Google reviews up on the screen. You're going to celebrate. You're going to clap and cheer. We're going to put a whiteboard up in your room that's going to have red X's and green check marks. We're going to mark you up at 25% increase year over year. We're going to get that result in the first 30 days just to show you what's possible. Like it's very detailed. It takes time. It is not a process that happens overnight. It's not a light switch. We do see that our dealers get results and usually in the first 90 days, 25% increase. But that's just the, that's the spark. But once we get the engine running, we put some things in place, we get the engine running. It's every week continuing to tune that thing. And how do we get 2 more horsepower? How do we get 3 more horsepower? All right, tweak this, turn this wrench, tighten this nug. Okay, now boom, let's get another 3 more horsepower. And we're just constantly tuning this engine in as we continue to grow from 100 cars to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6. And ultimately, the goal is I want every single one of my dealers to grow 800%. And then I want them to fire me after that. But they should probably write me a big fat check on my exit interview. Just saying. Man.
Okay, I have two final questions. One is business related, one is personal related. I'll end on the personal question. But the last business question I have is because you're talking about time, 30, 60, 90 days. We know that this is an industry that for some reason has just taken a beautiful liking to a 30-day cycle. Oh yeah. How do you help dealers reconcile? How do you help dealers, any business owner for that matter, reconcile? But you're having to spend the time anyway. So since time exists and you live within time and you're going to live through that time anyways, how do you help them reconcile, break free from that 30-day cycle? It's going to take longer than that, and you need to be okay with it.
Yeah. So the first thing I do is I show them, I point out to them the big, right? So we're in the infinite game. It's actually the very first book. Part of what we do, Cirillo and 800% Club, is every quarter, every 4 or 5 months or so, not too much. My dealers don't love to read a lot, but I'll drop a book on them. And so when people first join the program, we get Simon Sinek's book, The Infinite Game. And we talk through how important it is that we start making decisions today that are ultimately going to keep us in the game. See, dealers are always trying to win. They're trying to win their zone. They're trying to win their region. They're trying to win, even in their own group. Well, I sold more than everybody else in the group. You're like, yeah, dude, but you're still in the bottom 5% of all dealers in the nation. Like, who cares? Like, it's not about winning. It's about playing the game. We got to outlast everyone else, right? And we want to stay in it as long as possible and be profitable for as long as possible. So I show them the big first, this infinite mindset. And then I literally do a reverse psychology on them and I make them start doing things in the small. So instead of putting goals for a month, what's the goal for today? Instead of looking at results for the month, what's the result we got to get today? Right? Instead of looking at how many phone calls we make, let's get how many appointments did we set, right? Like we focus on daily results. And so I show them this, then I shrink them to this, and then I keep hammering them on the daily. And over time, they start to lose track of 30-day mentality, trying to hit this target and this goal, right? It takes time, but over time, now they're just like, okay, what do I got to do today? What do I got to do today? And next thing you know, they're playing the long game, but in little tiny short spurts.
Brilliant.
That's how that works.
I love it. That's brilliant. On a personal note,
you gotta mess around with dealers a little bit, man. You can't be like, you can't go too hard. You can't be like, I'm gonna break you out of your 30-day deal. They're like, F you, bro. Like, I've been doing my 30-day thing for 20 years.
Right.
Us in automotive, those of us that are good in automotive, right? That are really good in automotive, we have a little bit of an ego, bro. Like, that's what makes us good. That's what makes us good in automotive, man, is we look in the mirror every morning and we're like, dang, I'm dope. Like, I'm good. I closed the hot mama. I got beautiful kids and I'm freaking running a store. Like, we have a little bit of an ego. And so it's really important when working with dealers, it's really important that we allow that to still be a part of what they're doing, right? We don't attack. We don't break down. It's not that anybody's doing anything wrong per se. It's that, hey, and I say this to my dealers when I first sign them up. I'm like, look, you wouldn't be in the position you're in if you weren't successful. Like, obviously you're strong, right? Or you wouldn't got into that position that you're in. You're going to get there. You're going to grow 800%. You're going to do it. Right. It just might take you 25 years where I can get you there in 5. So you could either do it on your own, take 25 years to get there, or I've already scraped my knee. I've already busted my head. I've already made all the mistakes. How about you learn from my mistakes and let's get you there faster. Right. And that's really what 800% Club is about. It's like, how do we scale faster? It's not that anybody is stupid or doesn't know these things. It's, and a lot of these, doesn't know some of the things, but you know what I mean? It's just a matter of long-term, small tweaks to ultimately get us to the goal.
I don't know if it's because I'm starving and it's nearly lunchtime, but also this all ties back to tacos and the recipe. Both
my
the
lunch
subtle nudge
got here. I can smell it on the other side.
The subtle nudge reminder for the recipe, but also what you're saying makes me think of a recipe. It's like, you're not dumb. You're not doing it wrong. You've got all the ingredients. I'm just saying, I've got the cookbook. Like, you can have all the ingredients for a chocolate cake in front of you, but without the cookbook telling you the sequence that those ingredients should be added to the bowl and mixed, the temperature that it should be baked at, and the duration, you're going to end up with a glob of like either a brown brick on your counter or a mushy pudding. And so I love the way, the way that you phrase that. It really makes me think, hey, like, here is the recipe. You've got the ingredients. You might just be deploying them in a out of sequence. And so if we can make those tweaks and identify those things and then add in a little bit more sugar here and a little bit more, baking soda here or whatever, then you're going to end up with this real powerful thing faster. I love it, man.
That's it, man. Nobody wants it to just be edible. We want it to be delicious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we make dealers delicious. That's what you tag like 800% elite auto, making dealers delicious.
Ooh. You also referenced the hot mama and the boatload of kids. I want to just give you some love in this moment. You've given me so much advice personally over the years that we've known each other now. I think, truthfully, at one point, I had called you in the car. My wife was with me. And after the call, I looked over at my wife and I'm like, I think Glenn might be a better member of my church than I am. And we don't even go to the same church. All of that to say, I want to ask you this personal question because it does bleed into the business. And I saw your post on LinkedIn about working on Sundays and all these sorts of things. Like, for those that aren't aware, there's the verses in the Bible that talk about multiplying and replenishing the earth, and the Lundys took that very seriously upon their shoulders.
Hey, bro, I'm trying to get to heaven, bro. Come on.
It's not 7 kids; it's father to 8 kids.
I have 8. Yeah, I've got 8. My wife and I have 7 together. Yes.
So you and Leslie have 7 together. There's 8 children in the mix. I came to your house once for the first time, and like, it was like that game Barrel of Monkeys. That's what I felt like, because it was like a kid would just latch on, like we'd walk past a doorway and a kid would latch onto me and link arms with me. And we walk past another doorway and then like, I was like, oh, there's another one. Geez. And then next thing you knew, I was like, oh, there's one on my shoulders all of a sudden. And then there's one hanging on my ankle all of a sudden.
No doubt.
How do you, for those that have a difficult time navigating, because like you're not just pouring into other people's businesses, you're growing your business and you've got a family. What have you found to navigate all of these different facets of your life for those that are perhaps feeling like they're stuck in that rat race and not giving enough attention where they want to be giving it?
Yeah. So really it comes down to a quick change in language. Like I can solve this for everyone in the room right now by simply shifting one word in the English vocabulary, probably the Canadian vocabulary as well, just to verify. All right. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go on a quick little journey. So when we talk about our business, when we talk about our finances, when we talk about anything that we really want to achieve on the target side, the goal side, the rah side, right? We say, I'm going to invest in my business. I'm going to invest in my my growth, in my learning. I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to invest in my stock. I'm going to invest in my real estate portfolio, right? We use the word invest. And that word invest inherently means we expect an ROI. We expect a return on the investment, right? Nobody goes into an investment expecting to get nothing or to lose, right? I'm going to invest in real estate because I'd like to lose $1 million. No one ever says that. They expect an ROI. Now, check this out. Now, listen to people's language. This is language, okay? I'm going to spend time with my family. I'm going to spend time on vacation. I'm going to spend some time doing yard work, right? We use the word spend when it comes to things that matter most, right? I'm going to spend some time in the Word. You hear it all the time in the church. Even the pastors up at the front, he's like, you should spend some time in the Word, right? We use that word spend. Well, what is the definition of spend? Spend is a minus, bro. It's a deduction. Go spend $10 out of your bank account and see what you got. $10 less. So what I learned is when we change the word spend to invest, then the intention becomes, let's get an ROI. I have 7 children in my home, an 8th that lives in Flagstaff. I've got 2 businesses. I've got 114 rooftops that we're serving as far as dealers. I travel, I speak on stages, all of those things. What I have learned is that when we make every minute an investment with an ROI expectation, there's room for all of it. Because see, my son, who this morning joined me out on the soccer field at 7 a.m. is when we've been doing practice. Him and I spent 45 minutes. I invested 45 minutes into him this morning. He requires that to really get an ROI. I notice when I spend that extra time, I just said it again, when I invest that extra time with my son, I've noticed that he's much more loving, much more connected, right? Now, Willow, on the other hand, if I invest about 2 minutes into Willow, that's about all she needs to feel seen, heard, and significant. And that's about all she's going to give you anyway, because her brain's going to go over here. It's going to go over there. There's a million things that she's worried about, right?
Right.
I invest time in my wife, 30 minutes a night. We watch Everybody Loves Raymond, Big Bang Theory, something silly before we go to bed. It helps her feel super connected, right? And in my businesses and with different employees, there's a different investment required to ultimately get the ROI, you see? And so it's not about balance. It's not that I have to spend the same amount of time at work and the same amount of time with my kids and the same amount of time on myself. It's making sure every minute's an investment. When you go into your Bible or your spiritual time, make sure that invest that time, man. Get an ROI. So that's what I say. to everybody out there that feels overwhelmed, there's not enough time, how do you do it all, so on and so forth, change the word spend to invest and make sure that every minute is an investment into moving you towards whatever ROI it is that you're looking to get.
Wow. If my wife was sitting next to me, I say, Glenn's probably a better member of my church than I love it. Wow. The minute
Think about running, right?
Dude,
you could spend time running every day. If you spent time running every day, you know what type of result you would get?
Yeah.
Like none. It would be minuscule at best, right? But if you really invest time into running, that means you invest some money into it. You go get the right shoes. You get an app that's going to push you. You do the interval training, right? Some days you're a mile, another day you're 3 miles, another day you're half a mile, but you're sprint. Like when you invest into it, you can get a result so much faster, man, because you can get that ROI. Whereas if you're just like, I'm going to go spend some time in the weight room, like it ain't going to work. Right. So that was a game changer for me, and I hope it helps your audience as well.
Love it, man. How can those listening learn more about you, more about 800% Elite Automotive Club?
Well, the good news is, Michael, I actually teach all of my dealers all about social media as well, because we are pretty darn good at it. So if you just search Glenn Lundy with 1 or 2 N's, you're likely going to find me all over the place. But the best thing that you could really do would be connect with us. Go to themorning5.com and you can download. I have an ebook that I wrote that talks about morning routines and the power of that. You can download that ebook, learn more about me. At that point, I love to serve before I receive. So if I can give you a little free gift, go to themorning5.com, grab that free gift. We can connect there. And then hopefully I'll see you over on, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, or Reddit, Pinterest, wherever.
Oh, man. Love you, buddy. Thank you so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook podcast.
You're the man.